This is the second video that shows prime factorization, and the reason why this video comes second is because we're going to use exponents in our answers. So if you haven't already watched the first video on prime factorization, I recommend that you do that first before we're going through with this video. We're going to show you a brief example of a factor tree. Okay, so we have the number 72 and we want to find all the prime factors of the number 72. So I've branched it out into two factors that when multiplied give me 72, and that's 9 and 8. And 9 has two factors, 3 and 3. And 8 also has two factors, 2 and 4. Now if we look at the 3's first, 3 is a prime number, and so we can't branch that out any further. So I've circled both of my 3's here because those are the prime numbers. We broke 8 down into 2 times 4. 2 is a prime number as well, and so I circled the number 2. However, 4 is a composite number, so we break that down another step and we go to 2 and 2, the factors of 4. And since 2 is a prime number, I've circled both of those. Now, when we are using prime factorization, we use exponents to show if a number has been multiplied more than once, if a prime number has been multiplied more than once, to get that product. And in this case, the number 2 is multiplied 3 times. So we have 2 to the power of 3. That 3 exponent shows us that that 2 is multiplied by itself 3 times, times 3 to the power of 2, because there's 2 3's in my factor tree here. So my answer is 2 to the power of 3 times 3 to the power of 2, or 2 cubed times 3 squared. And that is my prime factorization for the product of 72. Let's go ahead and do a few more examples. Okay, we have the number 100, and I'm just going to think of two numbers that when I multiply them together I get 100, and I'm thinking of the numbers 5 and 20. So I'm going to branch that out. I have 5 and 20 because 5 times 20 is 100. And 5 is a prime number, so I'm going to circle that. And 20 can be broken down even more into, we could do it a couple different ways. We could do it 2 and 10, or we can break it down to 4 and 5. I think I'm going to break it down into the numbers 2 and 10. Okay, 2 is also a prime factor, so I'm going to go ahead and circle that one. And then 10 can be factored into 2 again, and 5 again. 2 and 5. Those are both prime numbers. And so what is my prime factorization of the number 100 going to be? Well, I have 2 2's in my factor tree here, and I have 2 5's. Okay? So if I were to write it out without exponents, it would look like this. 2 times 2 times 5 times 5. However, in this lesson we are focusing on using exponents in our answer, and so the prime factorization for 100 would actually look like this. 2 to the power of 2 times 5 to the power of 2. Okay? So I have 2 2's that are being multiplied and 2 5's that are being multiplied. Okay, if you want to pause the video and go ahead and try the next 2 examples on your own, you can, or you can continue to follow along with me. I'm going to do 120, the prime factorization of 120. And because I know it is divisible by 10, because there's a 0 at the end, I'm going to use 10 and 12 as my 2 factors. 10 and 12. Those are both composite numbers, so I know I can break it down further. 10, well, I just did 10 right here. It was 2 and 5, so I'm going to go ahead and do that again. 2 and 5, and what do you know? Those are my prime factors for that branch. And then over here for 12, I know that 3 times 4 will give me 12. And 3 is a prime number, so I'm going to circle that. 4 is a composite number, however, so I know I can break down 4 into 2 and 2, because 2 times 2 equals 4. And I'm going to circle my last remaining factors down there. Okay, so if you notice, I have 3 2's that are circled, 3 2's that are my prime factors. So I'm going to have 2 to the power of 3 times, I have 1 3 times 1 5. So the prime factorization for 120 is 2 to the power of 3 times 3 times 5. And there's one problem left. We have 150. And again, I know 10 goes into it automatically. However, I also know that 50 goes into 150 3 times. So I think I'm going to try that one. I know that 3 times 50 gives me 150. And I know right off the bat, 3 is going to be one of my prime factors. And if I break 50 down, I can now put 10 into 50. I can do 25 times 2. Let's do 5 and 10. 5 and 10. Okay? And I know that 5 goes into 50 by multiplying it by 10. And 5 is a prime number. And if I break 10 down into 2 factors, I have 2 times 5, okay? And those are all of my prime numbers. So I'm going to write out my prime factorization. I have 1 2 times 3 times 5 to the power of 2, or 5 squared. Okay, so 2 times 3 times 5 squared is my prime factorization for 150. And there is some, those are some examples showing you prime factorization using exponents.